How's it going, ladies and gentlemen? My name is Ruffled Rowlett, and welcome back to a brand new video, guys. Today, we're going to be taking ourselves a look at some new rumors that are out on 4chan, of course. This one was posted just about like 2 days ago, I want to say, from when I'm recording this video. And it's a pretty long rumor to read through, so we're going to be going through that. But we also have some other stuff to talk about, like, for example, official news. So let's just quickly go through the official news first, which is, yes, there is, of course, right now going on a mass outbreak event featuring Finizen, Lotad, and Horsey, which has begun. It's going to run until June 9th today. So if you haven't done it yet today, definitely get onto the game and do it right now. As you can see, it runs out in 13 hours, give or take. So literally at midnight tonight. So if you haven't done this, definitely do. Also go check out PokeOS, beautiful website for you if you want to keep up to date with Pokemon Scarlet and Violet updates, as well as just general Pokemon video game updates. But yes, it's going to be running out in 13 hours. So it's running from the 7th until the 10th. So yeah, today you got it, and it's going to be gone. Paldea, of course, has Finizen, Kitakami has Lotad, and Horsey is in Blueberry Academy. So definitely go do that. And of course, we can't forget that today is also the last chance for you to get your hands on the Mighty Swampert. Yes, the Scarlet and Violet Mighty Swampert Terror Raid battle has begun its second run, with Blissey returning as an additional raid. So if you don't have this specific Swampert, this is your one chance to get it, because if you don't get it now, you're not going to ever get it. It's going to be gone, and I don't think it's going to be doing a rerun on this one anytime soon. So again, like I said, just worthwhile getting these while you can. Now let's move on to actually some rumors. Now, starting things off, we have this post right here. So this one says the following information, which is Legends info by Anonymous, posted on the 7th of June. The game is split between Lumio City and the Kalos Wilds. Now, to start with, that already sounds logical. I'm assuming that the way that, Legends ZA is going to function is probably going to be in the sense that the city is our main, location where we go to do stuff as a hub, as well as like a place to do side quests and activities. But we're still going to have zones we can explore, kind of like wild areas that will be sort of places we go to, which I doubt that they would do anything differently than that, because if it's all set within just a city, that's going to be interesting. I'm actually more interested in if they were to do that. I think having wild areas or locations of wild that you would have to go to, as much as I don't mind that, I think it's fine, and it's not necessarily bad or necessarily amazingly good, I do think that having just the city as one location would allow for more time to be spent on making a single location that is definitely beyond anything else you could see, right? Like, think of games like Spider-Man or Spider-Man 2, right, on the PlayStation. Those games, what they benefit from is the fact that everything is spent on the city, that one city location, instead of making several other zones, which is what makes for an interesting, location. Again, it is a bit different from Pokemon, but I do think if they spent all the time on just Lumios, they could make a perfect Lumios that would just be amazing on its own to explore. But I do think the logic here and what this rumor is trying to say, it makes sense. It doesn't seem far-fetched, right? It doesn't actually seem like something that would be too much from the realm of possibility. Moving on, though, they say all the story and trainer battles happen in Lumio City. That would make sense as well. The same way that most, if not most of the battles in Arceus took place, within the space of Jubilee Village, right? Most of it took place there. There were, of course, battles outside. I'm not gonna pretend like there wasn't. There definitely were battles outside of it, but a lot of it did take place there too. So yeah, it would be interesting and curious to see how that's gonna turn out. But yeah, all the story and trainer battles happen in Lumio City. However, wild Pokemon are encountered in the Kalos Wilds. So I guess, yeah, it's just like Arceus in the sense, right? The city serves as a hub. Everything outside of it serves as a location you go to basically a hands-on new Pokemon and complete or create the Pokedex in Arceus, right? So again, nothing crazy here. It seems all logical. It all makes sense. Moving on, though, and this is where it gets interesting, right? It says the game has 6 maps, okay? 6 maps, interesting. They are visual tricks to make them look all connected, but only one map is loaded at a time to make it run smooth. Okay, one map is Lumios, and the other 5 are sections of the Kalos Wilds. That would also make sense, because if you look at the map of Lumios, you do have those 5 circles, which also could be a visual representation of the actual, more like a metaphorical representation of the 5 zones surrounding Lumio City that also exist within Lumio City, right? How would I even say this? If you have a painting of sorts that's describing something, and that actual thing is describing is right behind it, right? Kind of like that. But yeah, that would not be that crazy, right? Again, having 5 maps around it that you go through to find Pokemon, and then Lumio City as a hub, again, just makes sense. It's not necessarily that crazy. Also, interesting here saying that they all look connected, but one map is only loaded at a time to make it run smooth. That will make sense. that's not something new. If Game Freak doesn't know how to handle, something like that, like, kind of standard, maybe not easy. I'm not going to pretend like it's easy to do these things. Like, making video games is hard, but we are talking about a massive company here. We're not talking about an indie company. We are talking about Game Freak, which owns the biggest, highest grossing, entertainment franchise in the world. Like, Pokemon has made more money than many other franchises combined. So Pokemon is massive. They make enough money to be able to afford to, buy more resources and spend on more people to be able to, like, actually make these games. So again, it is what it is. But nonetheless, they do say the following though, which is, like I said, one map is loaded at a time and make it run smoother. One map is Lumiose and the other 5 are sections of the Kalos Wilds. Again, would make sense. Moving on. The map file names from the wild section areas are Terminus, Forest, Industry, Triplet, and Goats. Now, going through these, Terminus, I guess that would be anywhere with like I guess where Terminus Cave is, right? Because Terminus Cave is, I think, where you find Zygarde. So I guess that would be an area where Zygarde would be more present, and maybe the story of Zygarde would be more explored. Forest, well, there's a lot of forest sections you could technically go for, but I guess like any of the forest that would be kind of reminiscent of like let me look it up, right? Like Kalos Forest, right? Like what forests are there in Kalos? I guess Santaloon Forest would be the most logical one, right? Like I guess a representation of Santaloon Forest. Industry, that would be any of the areas like where I guess the power plant is, right? In Kalos, like the power plant, I guess, with Industry. Triplet, that one I'm not sure about. You guys can tell me in the comment section down below what Triplet could be referring to. I'm totally lost in that one. Goats would be, I guess, any point where like go-goats are encountered in the game, or just anything to do with the go-goats. I guess that's like, or skiddos, I guess, is what I can think of. But I don't know what final name, if any, they have in the game. Okay, so that's just what he's saying, that those are quote-unquote file names that exist, okay? Which is fine. That seems like those, again, nothing so far in this whole post has in any way, shape, or form felt like it's too crazy or too out there to be real. Like, all of it seems pretty straightforward. I'm not going to lie to you. It seems pretty realistic. At least from the way I'm seeing it. It actually seems real. But again, that's just, for now. Let's move on to the next one. The starter is a baby Zygarde, but there are 3 royal factions based around the Kalos starters. See, you had me in the first half, but now you're losing me. So the starter is a baby Zygarde. Why do I feel like that just does... Well, first of all, what would the baby Zygarde even be? Because we know that a regular, like a, what was it, like a single cell like Zygarde, like when it's just like one of the cells, that's already kind of like looking like a baby Pokemon. So I think it would be weird to make another version that would be even smaller. Like, what's it meant to even be? It seems a little stupid in my opinion. But apparently there are 3 royal factions based around the Kalos starters. So 3 different factions in the game, which I think that would be pretty cool. I wouldn't mind that, having different factions. That would be pretty sick actually. But again, this whole thing sounds a bit far-fetched. Moving on. Dog Zygarde is the bike. So I guess, yeah, the dog version of Zygarde, which is like, what percentage is that? 25? 45? I don't even know. Zygarde dog form. Let's see. So that's the 10%. Jeez, I said 50. Am I stupid? So yeah, it's a 10% form. But yeah, fair enough. I mean, I don't see that being that crazy to believe. I can see Zygarde working as a rideable Pokemon. He says is the bike, so I guess similar to how the bikes were back in, like, the old games, but also how, like, Koraidon, Miraidons almost look like bikes now in, the current game. So fair enough. Moving on though, he says every Pokemon who Mega Evolves does a special animation after they Mega Evolve, kind of like a quick dance or a combat pose or something. Okay, I'm gonna be real. I think that's unnecessary. Just from a gameplay standpoint, like, listen, like, think about most people who play Pokemon, especially those who, like, maybe don't play the mainline games and play a lot of ROM hacks and fan games and just ROMs of games. They like speed up buttons because, honestly, and by the way, they removed the button that can remove animations from Scarlet and Violet. You can't even turn animations off, which I hated, because you gotta understand, as somebody who plays through these games over and over again multiple times for videos, it's not fun having to watch through all these animations of shit that you don't really care about. Like having to watch the enemy, your opponent terrestrialize every 2 minutes. It gets a little frustrating after a while. But I will say this though, and what I want to say about this in particular is the following, which is, I think it's unnecessary. I don't think, like, there's, like, take something like Pokemon, let's say, Battle Revolution. That game, or even Stadium, those games have really good animations that look really good for the Pokemon, right? They look really sick, but they feel like logical. They fit with the Pokemon. The animations look good. I feel like stuff like this is just to fill up space and make the game runtime, like the game's runtime, feel longer than it really is, just because you're wasting time watching an animation over and over again that you don't really care about. Like, I don't necessarily think adding extra animations, because I think Mega Animation is already long as is. It already is a long animation to start with. Adding even more to that seems a little fucking stupid in my opinion. Like, I just don't get the point of it. Like, you shouldn't, like, be dragging it out for the sake of dragging it out. Just make what's already there better. Improve on the existing animation and make it run smoother, maybe even faster, but cooler, right? Like, try to innovate on it rather than just add more for the sake of adding more. That just feels like more quantity over quality for the game, which I don't think is necessarily good for a Pokemon game. By the way, moving on though, he says that assuming Kanto and Hoenn starters will either be wild or gifted because they do have mega animations. Okay, so I guess that would make sense. I did see another rumor that kind of said like, oh hey guys, you know, they're gonna delete megas after this. Like they're gonna reset the whole like mega timeline thing, and they're gonna be this is the last time we're gonna see mega evolutions, which made me kind of really like sad. But now that I think about it, that kind of also makes sense with what he's saying here, right? The whole idea of like Kanto and Hoenn starters also being here, and that this is gonna be the final version of mega evolution, and it's gonna just remain in this one game, which would be really sad if true. Either way, it says the next thing, though, which is Groudon, Kyogre, Rayquaza, and Latios don't have animations. However, Mewtwo and Diancie do. So what would these little animations like even do then? Like, what's the point of them? Like, if not everybody has it, then what's the point? But again, it is what it is. He says there weren't 2 Mega Evolution references in the Paradox lineup. There were 5. Is he saying that 5 of the Pokemon that have Paradox forms are going to get Megas, or am I missing something? He says there's a new 75% form Zygarde, okay, Zygarde form, that looks like a pterodactyl, works as the glider in the game. So I guess he's trying to say that Zygarde's kind of going to be our utility to move around the map. I guess that's what he's trying to say, which is cool and all. I mean, hey, I don't mind, but it is definitely a little bit out there. But I mean, no, actually, that's not out there. I'm bullshitting. That is not out there. That's actually 100% logical. However, I'm kind of confused what he's trying to say here, that there weren't 2 Mega Evolution references in the Paradox lineup. There were 5. So I guess, is he trying to say that there were like references in the Paradoxes to Mega related stuff? Is that what he's trying to say? Are we going to be getting like these 5, like the ones on the side here, which you guys can't see all of them, but we have like, we have the Gallade one, we have, Volcarona, we have Amoonguss, we have Delibird, and we have Volcarona, right? Like those forms. So I don't know. It's interesting. Moving on. Poison Flying Rookidee, apparently is going to be in the game, and a Steel Ghost Delmise. Okay, interesting. Poison Flying Rookidee. Huh. That's a bit different. I wouldn't have expected that to be the case, but okay. He says only new legendary megas are Xerneas, Yveltal, and another Mewtwo form. Okay, we got another Mewtwo, man. I don't see how Mewtwo keeps getting away with this, man. How does Mewtwo keep getting away with this? This is like dodging bullets, like it's crazy, man. Like literally out of the Matrix. But fair enough. Okay, so he's saying that those 3 are the only Mega Evolutions that will happen for legendary Pokemon. Which again, you know what? Okay, that's fine. I can live with that. I can live with that. I can stomach that one. Then they say here only new Pokemon are Delmise Evolution, Ancore, and Ancore and the antagonist legendary Agarios. Okay, Ancore looks like the Kraken made of tangled chains and anchors. Okay, and Agarios resembles a large onion and looks more like an Ultra Beast than a Pokemon. Not sure what its lore is, but there's several cutscenes of it growing larger and sucking life out of the environment. Well, that would make sense because we have the whole like world tree, right? We've seen like the logo of ZA. The A in the ZA logo literally looks like a tree. And if there's a Pokemon that literally sucks life, because think about it, like trees are kind of, like perfect in naturally speaking, right? Because they take energy out of the ground as well as from sunlight, and then kind of like put out oxygen to kind of like balance out the world, right? Because otherwise certain animals we wouldn't be able to breathe, and things just wouldn't be able to exist. Like trees are the life force of our planet. So basically this would be an interesting case where it's like a creature that's literally sucking that life force out, which I think is an interesting plot point. It's not like the most unique thing in the world, but it does make sense. Saying the next thing here, for some reason, Kleavor, Wordeer, and the Johto starters are among those to receive new Mega Evolutions. Interesting. Cleavor, Weirdeer, and the Johto starters to get new megas. Yo, that would actually be freaking lit, dude. I'm not even gonna lie, that would actually be so sick. Like, I would love Mega Johto starters. Like, that would be actually so cool. And Cleavor and Weirdeer, that would be weird ones, but hey, I'm honestly on board for it. I don't see an issue with it. I don't think it's a bad thing. That's the first part of the rumor. Now let's move on to the second section of it, which is the following, which says, he says 13 Pokemon, specifically 13 Pokemon, have cutscenes where they're glowing green and menacingly approaching the camera. He says that it's the following one, which is Quilladin, Braixen, Frogadier, Diggersby, Gogoat, Malamar, Barbaracle, Ancore, Noivern, Xerneas, Vettel, the complete Zygarde form, and Agirios. Then he says that 13 Pokemon have cutscenes where Unbound Hoopa summons them to battle. Wait, what? Hello? Okay, that's very confusing. So he's saying, wait, what? 13 Pokemon have cutscenes where Unbound Hoopa summons them to battle. Deoxys, Heatran, Victini, Genesect, all 4 of the Tapus, so Tapu Koko, Tapu Lele, Tapu Bulu, whatever. Zacian, Zamazenta, these are all legendaries I'm noticing though, so I guess that would make sense. Zacian, Zamazenta, Eternatus, Calyrex, Unbound Hoopa summoning itself. Okay. Okay, this is just random. This is so random. Is this supposed to be a reference maybe to the Hoopa rings and everything from Oras and whatever, like the little portals you can travel to? Is that supposed to be a reference here? I guess it would make sense, but it's so random. It's such a very specific random thing. It's a special area separated from the rest that you can access anytime. That's called the Friends Safari, where you can encounter friends from your friends list playing the game. No way to play with strangers online, only existing friends. Okay, interesting. You can battle them as well as trade Pokemon, items, or recipes with them, as long as you're both online and in the Friends Safari. That sounds realistic, given that Legends Arceus didn't have any form, okay? No form of actual multiplayer. The only thing you could do is like what? Like what were you actually able to do? Was it trading maybe? Was that it? I don't even remember anymore. I know you weren't able to multiplayer battle, like you couldn't actually battle other players. Geez, did they even have anything related? I don't even think you could you trade? I don't even think you could trade. No, because they give you the link cable. Oh my god. Yeah, there was nothing. I forgot there was no multiplayer at all. So this is interesting because this sounds like a realistic way for them to add multiplayer without adding multiplayer, right? Because like this would be them just being able to dodge adding like the multiplayer that's in Scarlet and Violet, where you can actually see your friends and run around and do shit with random people. They would just be dodging that bullet by not having to program and create that and upkeep servers for that. And instead, just make this as a form of like actual, multiplayer that could exist with just your friends, which makes it easier for them to actually like upkeep it, I guess. That's fine. I actually don't mind it necessarily. I'm okay with it. Again, I'm okay with the Legends games not having to be multiplayer. I don't think necessarily every Pokemon game has to be full-on multiplayer, but I don't mind this. I think this is at least like it's a good compromise, given that Legends Arceus didn't have anything. If this is true, of course. I'm talking as if it's real. But yeah, let's move on to the next thing, though, which is the following. You can battle them as well as trade Pokemon items or recipes with them, as long as you're both online and in the Friend Safari. Moving on, having different friends playing the game will also influence which Pokemon spawn in the Friend Safari, including many that aren't in the decks. That also sounds very realistic. Like, this sounds so real, and that's the crazy part. It just sounds so realistic, man. Out of all the rumors I've read, this is going to be one of the ones that just stands out, like, the most as feeling real. Some of the stuff is a bit iffy though. I'm going to go through that at the end though. But either way, moving on, says that player is highly customizable. That would be very good. Default boy and girl look like Clement and Bonnie, which is fine. But like, I'm going to be real right now. Brother, please give us customization in this game. They butchered the customization in Scarlet and Violet. You could do nothing. There was no options. You had nothing available to you in that game for customization. It was so bad. Okay? How the hell do you make a game where the customization is worse than the customization in Sword and Shield? Like, how? How do you achieve that? Like, how do you achieve that level of bad? Like, it's just, I don't understand that. But he says there it's going to be highly customizable. And then moving on, saying unchosen gender is not a character in the story. So you don't see like the opposite gender of yourself. Like you don't see, like if you're playing as the boy, you don't see the girl character showing up. And if you're playing as the girl character, you don't see the boy character showing up. So I guess those characters, there's only a singular one in the story, which is fine. That's interesting. That's one of the first times in Pokemon history that will be the case. Usually, the other option is kind of always present in one shape or form. for the most part. This would be one of the first times that that's not the case, which is, I mean, interesting. I think Scarlet and Violet also did that. Like, I don't think you have the opposite gender as your rival either in that game, so I think it's fine. It's not necessarily that crazy. But it's interesting that they're deciding to, like, not include the opposite version of you know, like the female or male character as your opponent. Interesting and fine. I don't think it's necessarily the end of the world. Not all Pokemon have done that. Games have done that. The only ones that really have done that, if you think about it, I think Fire Red Leaf Green kind of did it, and Ruby and Sapphire definitely did it. Like 100% did it. Diamond and Pearl did it too, and I don't remember Black and White anymore, to be honest. Either way. If the player is a time traveler, if the player is a time traveler, there is no cutscene to indicate it like the previous games. Okay, so there's nothing to indicate that this time around. He says, on a related note, the opening cutscene takes place on a Rhyhorn drawn carriage. Okay, that is interesting. Interestingly, though, this person hasn't even mentioned anything about if the game is set in the past or the future. Like, at no point here has it been mentioned the time frame of this game. But he says the following, which is, on a related note, right here. So, Professor Type is a shady property developer who seems like an obvious villain, but the villain is the psychic triplet leader of the Delphox clan, who has been casting spells over people and the city as a whole. So this does make it feel like the game is set more in the past, just by the fact they're talking about spells and shit. But yeah, it says, it seems more fun than the last Legends game. I'm excited. No idea what's being announced or when, but I heard the next trailer will be soon. So, let's go through this whole rumor again and just say a few things. First of all, it starts off amazing. The thing that I lose it at is the starter is a baby Zygarde. Like, that just does not seem real. Like, that just seems so far-fetched. It doesn't seem realistic to me. But again, it is Pokemon and anything is possible at this point. So that's the part where it kind of loses me. I do think the rest of it does sound pretty real. Like, the 75% Zygarde being as a glider makes sense. You know, the inclusion of 2 new Pokemon, like Rookie D getting a new form and Delmise getting a new form, which are 2 very random choices, which is also what Game Freak likes to do. They like to choose a very random Pokemon for this kind of stuff. So, honestly, that sounds like pretty realistic. Only new legendaries having Megas being Xerneas, Savetal, and another Mewtwo form. Again, highly realistic sounding. It doesn't sound that crazy to me. It actually sounds like something they would do. Overall, the whole rumor sounds realistic. There are a few aspects, like I said, that don't sound real, that do feel a little bit out there and a little bit like fanfiction-y. But again, honestly, Game Freak has been going crazy lately. Like, who even expected Legends Arceus to be announced when it did get announced? Like, nobody expected that. Nobody ever thought we were going to be getting a game of Pokemon set in the past. Like, that was in itself like a massive, crazy thing. So what I'm trying to say is this definitely holds some weight, and I think it's an interesting rumor. Out of all the ones I've read, I think it's one of the best ones and the most realistic sounding ones that I've read out of everything so far. Like, it genuinely sounds like more real than any of the other ones. So that's going to be that for that rumor. Now let's move on to the last 2 things for this video. So first of all, you guys may have seen this, but Nintendo Creatures and Game Freak trademark Glory of Team Rocket and Terrastal Festival, which were hints for possible new 2024 TCG sets. And something Soul Silver said is, oh man, brace yourselves, fam. I could be wrong, but these names of the new 2024 TCG sets just scream filler to me. Remember the last, like, 151 set just to pass the time before getting more new mainline content, lol. And yes, a lot of people are saying, like, you know, for example, Team Rocket, which should be absent from both the game and the animation. Yes, those are not even there. Terrastal Festival isn't a filler, though. It's the yearly high-class set like Shiny Treasure X EX last year. Should be where King Drug, Greninja, and King Gambit promos come from. But again, the interesting thing is that according to Centro here, and I actually already saw this post before Centro posted it over on 4chan. There's actually an archive of it with this guy just posting a picture of this logo that says Team Rocket strikes again, and it's a Scarlet and Violet like TCG logo. And usually with the TCG leaks, they tend to be real whenever they do drop stuff. So a lot of people were like, you know, oh boy, you know, like this is probably fake. But here's the thing, though. Central says, so this image appeared in 4chan almost a year ago. Everyone ignored it. Now the glory of Team Rocket has been trademarked by Pokemon in Japan for a future TCG set. So this is very likely was real all along. And wonder how many real leaks await to be discovered, which I agree. And he says also, some food for thought. The Japanese schedule for the TCG is currently July Stellar Miracle, September Paradise Dragona, and January likely the Glory of Team Rocket, March and April ? But yes, it does seem like this is a filler set, like something to just fill in the space in the meantime while we're waiting for an actual new thing that they can connect to it. It says the next TCG set name should be leaked in early August. And here's the thing. Here's what I'm going to say about this. You got to remember, guys, the TCG and the video games are both connected. Like, when anything happens in the TCG, it has to be also somewhat connected to the actual games. And this is like a case of them filling in the gaps, right? Whenever there isn't a new game that can be promoted alongside to kind of hype the TCG up and so on and so forth. Like, for example, right now, the set that just came out is a set that's based on Kitakami, right? We have a set now that's out based on Kitakami, and I think we're also going to get probably a set based on, you know, probably the Stellar set, right? Like you said here, you know, we're gonna get, like, you know, what is it? The next CG is gonna be leaked in, you know, in that same time. So yeah, basically what I'm trying to say is, we should be getting something related to that. I mean, even said here that, like, for Legends Arceus, its TCG set Starbirth was released on the same month as the game. If the next TCG leaks, and will leak in the coming months, and its name is not something that sounds related to PLZA, we could be looking at a summer release for the game at the earliest, which is true. So this is where, like, you know, like, this is where I think it's interesting to look at this, right? It's curious because you can learn a lot from just looking, you know, at, like, the leaks of these like TCG sets, or for how things are gonna go for, like, the actual mainline games. Because remember, the Pokemon games, they only make a certain amount of money. More of the money from Pokemon is made from merchandise, and merchandise includes the TCG plushies and you know, clothing and whatever else you can think of from Pokemon. Like, if we just look up, like, Pokemon, let's see, Pokemon revenue total. Let's see, total revenue for Pokemon as a, like, you know, as a franchise. If we go here over to, let's see, so here you go for, like, you know, here's, like, the listing on Wikipedia, which is not the best source, but the actual places these are from, I think, can be referenced here, where they're from, and it's, like, usually from actually, like, the official sources themselves, like the Pokemon Company, Nintendo, you know, Creatures, and Game Freak. But basically, here's what it says, right? So Pokemon has a total revenue of 88 billion. Okay, billion with a B, by the way, very big B. So 88 billion, which means that Pokemon has made, you know, since 1996, has made more money than Mickey Mouse and Friends. So Mickey Mouse and Friends is basically the kind of, you know, universe of Mickey Mouse, and that includes, like, you know, Disney World, that includes, like, you know, any of the cartoons, the merch. And keep in mind, Mickey Mouse and Disney are big, and that's made 52 billion, right? Which is huge. Winnie the Pooh has made 48. Star Wars has made 46, right? Disney, like, as a whole, like, Disney princesses have made 45. Anpanman, which I think is like it's like a Japanese, specifically, like, cartoon series or whatever, has made 38 billion, which is insane. My point is, Pokemon is still number one. And if you look at the earnings here for what Pokemon has made its money from, what is at number top one, right? Like, let's look at literally everything here, right? Number one for licensed merchandise for Pokemon is this right here, right? Like, this is licensed merchandise. This means, like, toys, TCG, merch, anything you think of, has made them 80 billion of that, right? Mobile games, 6 billion. So that would be Pokemon Go and whatever else, right? So you got, like, Pokemon Go, Pokemon Duel, Shuffle, Magikarp Jump, Pokemon Quest, and Pokemon Masters, right? Box office, this is what they made from, like, you know, the actual box office, you know, in terms of movies. So 1.1 billion. And then they've also made some money from, like, you know, having their stuff on Pokemon jets, like, you know, like the aircraft carriers, which is pretty neat. But point is, 80 billion from just the merchandise. Literally just the merchandise. Then if we look at, let's say, you know, Pokemon video game sales, right? And keep in mind, this number was last updated in 2022, right? Because in 2022, if you look at these numbers, Pokemon earnings in terms of, like, you know, revenue per year from merchandise have gone up, actually. They've actually not even doubled, they've almost tripled since, like, if you go from, like, the early 2010s, right? Where they were making in 2006 1.3 billion, 2000 1.4, then 1.4, 1.4, 2.5, 1.5, 1.5, 1.5. And you'll notice that, like, usually the big bumps are usually happening when there's, like, a big thing happening. And here, in this period, if you start from 2019, it's been doubling it even more since Pokemon started coming out on the Nintendo Switch. And you got to understand, Pokemon used to only come out on handhelds. People will buy handhelds specifically for it. But there was a lot of people out there who didn't bother doing that and would, you know, only maybe own, like, the main console of a franchise. So, you know, the Wii or whatever the fuck. But Pokemon never really existed on there until the Switch. And this is where it's like Pokemon's revenue has gone up like freaking crazy. It's skyrocketed, especially with like the higher interest in TCG cards, because people want to be able to resell them and stuff. That's just boosted their numbers. Like, look at the insanity of this. They went from 3.5 in 2017, right? 3.5 billion in merch to 11.6 in 2022. I don't even know what the number is now, but that's an insane number. And then if we look at like Pokemon video game sales, if we go over here to video game sales, as of December 2023, the Pokemon franchise has sold over 480 million units worldwide. This makes the second best-selling game franchise, only behind Mario. In addition, Pokemon Go is the most downloaded mobile game with over 1 billion downloads. So yeah, if we then try to look here at like, you know, the actual revenue that's been made, right? Like the gross revenue from the video games, here's what we have, right? So here's literally everything. This is all the totals. So if Pokemon, in terms of like actual revenue, has had a grand total of gross revenue of 158 billion, okay? Out of that 158 billion, if you look up here, 30 billion was from the main series games, all of the spin-offs, the arcade games, which are big in Japan, by the way. You don't really know much about them here, but they are big in Japan. And free-to-play being Pokemon Go and I guess stuff like that, which has another 9 billion on its own, right? 30 billion. Look at licensed merchandise. Licensed merchandise takes up 100 million. Sorry, 100 billion. Jeez, it's a B. It's a B. It's a freaking B in there. $100 billion is from just the licensed merch. And there's another 21 billion, which is still more than the main series games, okay? That's still more than the mainline games has been made from just the TCG. From there on, you guys can see the animated series only made about 800 million, which is still a lot, almost $1 billion in just that. Films made another 1.8 billion. You know, I guess films and home video here made another 96 million. Manga have actually made 1.4 billion, which is, you forget the manga still makes money. And manga volumes have made 72 million. So, point is this. Out of this grand total, 100 million out of this 158 has been made from just the licensed merchandise. Like, this is what makes the money. But here's the problem. How are you going to be able to put out, how are you going to make people buy the TCG, buy the merch, buy all these things if they don't have anything that pulls them in there? Like, why would you buy merchandise of something if you don't even care about it, if you don't have anything to make you interested in it? You need almost like the way I would call this is a loss leader, right? Like the main series games are loss leaders. They still make money, but relatively speaking, they make way less money than everything else in the franchise. Like everything else there, like literally the game exists as a sort of commercial for the merchandise. Because think about it. When a new Pokemon game comes out, you get excited. You get hyped up. You go and buy that game. You play it. You enjoy it or hate it. Doesn't matter, but you still get excited for it. And the next time you go to the store and you see a plushie of a Pokemon that just, you just caught, a part of you is going to be like, you know what? I kind of want that. And then you're going to end up like dum-dums like me having a wall of these things. Look at this beautiful thing. It's a cube with Pikachu on it, right? I got this as a gift, actually. But point is that my thing is like this, okay? People don't realize that the games are only commercials for the merchandise, because the merchandise makes way more money than the games will ever do. But that's the thing. For the merchandise to sell, the games need to exist. Without the game's existence, the merchandise would not sell. Like Pokemon is, at the end of the day, a video game franchise that started as a video game and is gonna die as a video game, right? It cannot exist without the existence, right, of a video game. Like the franchise cannot exist without the video games. It needs them to be able to sell more merch, because why would you buy it if there's nothing there? You know, maybe if you're really into the anime, that's another thing that can keep you invested. So the anime is in the same way. Like you guys can see, it's not like the anime makes a lot of money. That money from the anime is pretty awful, realistically. But guess what? The anime is still going till today. They still make the anime. Not the movies as much anymore, but definitely still the anime still exists. Why? Because it's a loss leader. You want people just to be invested. That's the same way that every anime ever, and this is something I'm going to tell you right now. If you watch an anime, you got to understand, they don't make any money off of you watching that anime. Like the actual money made from actually watching an anime is zero, right? And you got to understand, anime, the only reason that they're made is to advertise the manga. The reason a mangaka, like a person who writes a manga or makes a manga or creates a manga, the reason that they give their property away to be made into an anime and give away a level of profit from the anime is so that they can push more people to go and buy the manga. That's what anime has always been. It's been a a form of advertising for the mangakas, right? For the mangas. Like, that's what this always been. The same way that the Pokemon video games, the Pokemon manga, and the Pokemon anime, all three of those just exist as a way to promote merchandise. So people will buy more merch so they can make more money, because that's where the higher profit margins are in those places. In merchandise, they make way more money. So that's pretty much going to be it for that, guys. I don't really know what else to say. That's going to be it for today's video. I want to know your guys' thoughts and opinions on this, and I will see you all in the next one. Peace out, and bye-bye, ladies and gents. And again, thank you guys for all the support. I appreciate it. Peace out.